The story begins as the Silver Wing party faces off against a massive dragon, but even their combined strength is no match for the beast. It whips its tail through the air with deadly precision, and the group members are forced to jump to avoid the crushing blow. They counter with their most powerful attacks, but their weapons are no match against the dragon's thick hide. The dragon gathers energy to launch a strong attack, but the group's mage quickly raises a barrier to protect the party. However, it isn't strong enough to completely block the devastating attack. As the shield breaks, the party's cook, Dennis, rushes forward and uses his own body to shield the mage from the dragon's flames. A flame brushes her arm, so he quickly prepares a magic potion for her, advising her not to lose focus, which relieves the party's vice captain, Katie, because Dennis always has their back. However, the party leader, Vigo, doesn't seem impressed by Dennis's display of compassion. Instead, he seems to be irritated. Vigo channels his frustration into a devastating attack that strikes the dragon directly in its eye, causing the massive creature to roar in pain. The injury sends the dragon into a complete berserker rage, and it begins attacking everything in sight with unpredictable movements. They manage to survive the chaotic assault, and Vigo shouts at his team to stay strong because they are the strongest party in the world. After that, the scene shifts to Silver Wing's meeting hall, where all the party members have gathered around a large table. Except for Katie, Dennis asks why Vigo called this meeting, so Vigo places all the blame for their recent failure on Dennis's shoulders, claiming that if Dennis hadn't used his dread voice ability, the dragon wouldn't have fled, and they would have been able to defeat it properly. Dennis calmly reminds Vigo that he was the one who ordered him to use that specific skill, but Vigo refuses to accept responsibility for his commands and continues to berate Dennis for the outcome. Dennis remembers how their goal was to defeat the dragon and harvest its rare materials for profit, but when the dragon suddenly entered a frenzied state, it made it very dangerous for them to continue the battle, since most of them were already injured, and they were looking at an imminent defeat. Vigo ordered Dennis to use the intimidation skill Dread Voice, which could frighten enemies. Dennis followed the command and successfully sent the dragon running away from the battlefield. Although this decision ended the quest in failure, it also saved everyone's lives. Dennis admits that he was surprised by Vigo's uncharacteristically good judgment at the time, but now that he is seeing his true nature, he hasn't changed. Vigo completely denies giving such an order and goes even further by suggesting that Dennis might have been sent to infiltrate their party as a spy from a rival group who wants to tarnish Silver Wing's reputation. He tells Dennis to leave their party, and none of the other members speak up to defend him because they're all afraid of the president. Vigo then delivers a cruel speech about how Dennis was never worthy of being in their elite party because he's just a cook, and the Silver Wing battalion is meant for highly skilled swordsmen, priests, and magicians. He notes that although they both have reached level 99, a lowly cook like Dennis has no place among true warriors. Dennis realizes that there's no point in staying there any longer, so he tells them to do whatever they want because they're not his problem anymore. He walks out of the room with his head held high, leaving behind his former party that he had served faithfully for so long. A little while later, Dennis walks through the busy streets of the capital city, thinking about how he will have to say goodbye to this place as well. A young girl accidentally bumps into him and lets go of her balloon, which starts floating up, and she begins to cry. Dennis quickly catches the balloon and returns it to her, saying that she shouldn't let go of things that are important to her. Meanwhile, Vigo watches from a distance as Dennis leaves, and he smiles coldly as he prepares to put his real plan into motion. Just as Dennis is about to leave the city, Katie appears and tries to stop him from leaving, despite others not acknowledging Dennis's role in the party. Katie knows that he played a key role, since he handled all the important tasks like medicines, alchemy, and cooking food. Dennis believes someone else will take over his responsibilities, but Katie explains that after he joined the party, their ability to explore dangerous dungeons increased dramatically, and now people are calling them the strongest party in the world. She knows that the rest of the party doesn't realize how much Dennis supports them from behind the scenes, but she knows his true importance. Katie desperately tries to convince Dennis to come back, and when that doesn't work, she asks him to at least cook one last dinner for her, or prepare a few lunches for them as well. Dennis can't believe that this is all she thinks about, so Katie gets serious and asks him if he's really leaving forever. When Dennis remains silent, Katie asks what he's going to do with his life now. Dennis explains that he's going to to continue cooking because that's his job, and he reveals that he's planning to start his own restaurant. Katie doesn't wish for him to leave, so she once again tries to stop him, claiming that she is the one who found him and that he belongs to her. Dennis is grateful that Katie invited him to join Silver Wing, and he reflects on how well they got along together, which he believes is the reason Vigo kicked him out, since he was interested in Katie romantically. Dennis apologizes to Katie and walks away, and even when she tries to order him to come back using her authority as vice captain, he doesn't even flinch because he knows that his life as an adventurer is over, but his life as a cook has just begun. A few hours later, Dennis just made his way to a new city, where he's shopping for supplies to start his new restaurant. He discovers an amazing box in one of the shops that can cool anything without ice, and the shopkeeper explains that it's called an ice box, and it's essential for every restaurant. Dennis gets excited about buying it, but then he remembers reading in his favorite book, How to Open a Restaurant, that he should avoid unnecessary purchases and keep his investment as low as possible. He decides not to buy the icebox because he can use ice magic instead. According to the guidelines of the book, he buys an abandoned property, communicates with distributors about procuring raw materials, and purchases the necessary utensils. After completing all these tasks, he thinks about how much fun this process is, and he is getting closer to his dream. The next tip from the book is not to take up everything on his own, as he can't serve all the customers, so he decides to hire a helper. Just then, he notices a crowd gathering around a slave trader who is selling a young girl who was once the daughter of a noble family. The trader explains that her parents were defeated in a political power struggle, and she was exiled, so that's how she ended up here. The people gathered there find it hard to believe that she's really nobility because she doesn't look refined at all, but they do think that she's cute and will grow up to be quite beautiful. Dennis wishes he could do something to help her, but he thinks that he can't save everyone in the world, and if he got angry at every injustice, he would never survive. But when he looks into the girl's lifeless eyes, he's reminded of his own childhood when he was an orphan. The slave trader asks for bids, and they start at 300,000 before others start bidding as well, and it quickly rises to 800,000. Dennis raises the bid to $1 million, and he thinks he will win it, but the shopkeeper he met earlier intervenes with a bid of 1.5 million, claiming that she's quite cute, so he's going to take her home and take good care of her. Dennis notices that this guy looks like a pervert, but he tries not to judge people by their appearance. As he mentioned, he would take care of her. However, the crowd starts talking about how this man is indeed a pervert, and the girl will be miserable if he buys her. Dennis realizes that he can't let this happen at any cost, so he raises his bid even higher. The bidding war continues until it goes way beyond 5 million, and we see that Dennis has actually bought her. He takes her to his new restaurant, but he feels upset since he spent almost all of his savings buying the girl, wanting to help her start fresh. He takes her to a store, buys her a new dress, and she gets cleaned up. Later, we see them walking home together, but the girl is walking pretty slow, so Dennis warns her that she's going to get lost if she doesn't walk closer to him. After a while, his warning proves to be true as she gets lost in the crowd. She can't find Dennis anywhere and gets scared of all the people around her, but after a few minutes, Dennis appears in front of her, not surprised that she actually got lost, and he apologizes for walking too fast. They reach the restaurant, and the girl asks Dennis why he bought her, and he mentions that there was no real reason, except that she reminded him of something from long ago. He asks her name, and she tells him to just call her Slave, but he wonders if she doesn't have a real name. She asks him to call her Atelier, and he introduces himself as Dennis. She asks what she should do, and he tells her that she doesn't need to do anything at all. She can use the upper floor, or if she doesn't want to live there, she can just leave because she's free now. Atelier is shocked to hear it, but before she can say anything else, her stomach growls loudly. Dennis begins preparing something for both of them to eat, and he prepares a wonderful dish that fills the entire restaurant with an amazing aroma. She is enchanted by the delicious smell, and when Dennis finishes cooking, they both sit down to eat. The girl really enjoys the food, and it makes her so happy that she starts crying. Dennis thinks that he doesn't know what she's been through, and he's not going to ask her about it unless she wants to tell him herself. She continues eating, but he notices she is choking cooking on the food, so he quickly helps her. Over the next few days, Exile helps Dennis decorate the restaurant, and she even takes care of the cleaning, which makes Dennis happy. After a while, they finish preparing everything, and Dennis names his new place the Adventurer's Restaurant. Dennis tells Exile that she's going to be their poster girl, and she practices her customer service skills before their arrival. On the other hand, Dennis believes he has everything prepared and he's ready for anything that a customer can throw at them. He states that he's going to make everyone obsessed with his cooking, and they're going to get so addicted that they will eat all 3 meals at his place every day. He hopes that customers will pay him lots of money because he has no money after spending it all on the restaurant and Exile. But while he's lost in thought, their first customer enters the restaurant, but to their surprise, the customer is wearing armor. That was the first episode. Subscribe to not miss the next part and watch the next video on screen.